Hello traders and welcome to today's market update. My name is Nick. Here on the Forex chart with you, we're going to be taking a look at some potential trade setups and key zones to take a look at in the currency market. Let's go ahead and jump right into euro dollar. This is going to be our first pair for today, which you can see is kind of crumbling down. You can see if I take it back to a daily chart really quick, we are coming into contact with a significant zone right here, right? This area right here, which was a previous major level of support, is currently being tested by bears as price has pushed down into this particular area, right? So price was making a significant bounce off of these recent lows, but we quickly retraced back to that level. The question is, will we continue lower to go back to test this long-term low, which we found that bullish pin bar that we did talk about last week or 2 weeks ago, or are we going to snap back from this particular zone? That will be interesting to watch, but the thing overall is that on the euro dollar, we are seeing a pretty strong downtrend overall, right? So you can see, again, this sell trend in play. Sellers kind of reacting to this particular area. You can see all the wicks up here were telling us that there was a good chance that sellers were going to roll this market over. So going forward with euro dollar, it would not be out of the question if we want to continue this channel, right? We could see price head down to potentially test the bottom of some sort of channel like this one. You can see if price were to head back down to this area, we could probably see an interesting little setup along that recent long-term low, right? So we could see potential touch of the bottom of this channel and that significant support zone where I think we might have a good chance of some sort of bounce. At the time being, we are seeing euro dollar sell off pretty strongly, so not something to personally I would jump right in front of. Not yet exactly, I'd look for a little bit more, opportunity on the trade rather than just jumping in right away. Now, the next one is going to be GBP USD, which is kind of catching a bounce here. You can see we're looking at the 4-hour chart and we are seeing a breakthrough. Now, we had talked about this level here. If I quickly kind of talk about this area here, we had talked about the fact that this was our recent shelf, right? On the last market update, we talked about right around here. We said if price comes up into here, good chance we see some sort of rejection, which we did, right? We saw some short-term rejection, but now we are seeing a breakthrough on that particular zone, which is significant. It is a big deal that we are finally seeing that break on the pound, right? And we are currently trading above that recent zone, now potentially a zone of support as price has broken through and closed as well. Even on a daily candle, you can see we are above that significant zone. And the thing is here, we may be headed back to some sort of long-term seller level of resistance, which could mean a move all the way up into this region here along this particular trend line, which had been very, very strong. You can see if I extend it out, it even goes back to this point. Pretty strong trend line there. And if price heads back up to there, you might find some sort of seller resistance in that particular area. As sellers have been, kind of controlling this market for quite some time, it may be a chance right now for the pound to actually catch a bounce. We have been talking about this for a while. Just the fact that, overall the pound has been sold off very, very strongly. And when buyers kind of step in, we could see a big move to the upside to potentially go back to test some long-term levels of resistance. Next is going to be USD JPY, which did catch a bounce recently. You can see we did form a higher low, which is significant. Let me talk about this particular zone that I want to mention, which is, you can see right here, we did kind of have the formation of a inverted head and shoulders. Now, if you don't see it, let's get on the sketch pad and I'll point it out. What you can see is, again, USD JPY in a strong downward movement. Let's go ahead and make this black. A strong downward movement on USD JPY, and you can see here we put in some lower lows, but then what you can see next is there is our next lower low followed by a higher low. Right, so this is our lower low and this is our higher low. So a potential head and shoulders, you can see that kind of forming here on USD JPY. The question will be if we can break through this level here and find some sort of retest, would be a confirmed head and shoulders, and we could have ourselves a nice reversal here on USD JPY. So be looking out for that potential setup. Next is going to be Brent crude oil. This one has been interesting as well. As you can see, we are still catching some sort of a bounce. We did get a pullback on that move, and we found some sort of kind of support zone right around this area along those recent lows. So going forward from here, we may be headed in the context of this continued trend. We did break through that level of structure, so it should be interesting to see if we can come back and break through that level, or if we'll find resistance in favor of that long-term trend and continue lower on Brent crude. WTI crude is going to look pretty similar, as they do trade in a lot of the same ways. What you can see here is that a little bit cleaner of a setup, actually, even. WTI crude, you can see price bouncing off of this level and then price breaking through. And now the question is if price can get back up to that point, especially if it comes into contact with kind of this recent level of top, that could be a nice little sell trade idea. If price can get up into that area, line up with that trend line, line up with that resistance zone, should be interesting to see if there's any opportunity there. XAU USD did finally catch some seller action. You can see we did get a big sell-off, but quickly the market continued to head back up. But what we're seeing here now is kind of some hesitation from buyers. You can see price is entering kind of a consolidation phase where you actually have sellers responding and sellers moving this market back and forth. Now the question is, if we can break through one of these major levels, we could see a continuation. For example, if I get my sketch pad out, if we do see a break to the downside, right? If we break through this level here, right, what was a support in this general area, if we break through that level, we could find ourselves a break and retest opportunity to the sell side, right? Looking for opportunities to join the new move as early as possible. That would be a potential idea for gold. Now, the same applies on the top, right? If we do break that structure, we retest, we could see a continuation of this trend. I mention every time about gold that gold is one of those things that just can keep trending. So we want to be careful here about trying to fade the move on gold until we see some sort of evidence of a potential reversal. Next up is going to be Euro Yen. I wanted to bring this one up because what you can see here is that we do have kind of a significant bottom forming here on Euro Yen. The question is, will this hold? I think we might have a good chance here as we are seeing buyers step in multiple times along these lows, and oftentimes that leads into kind of a breakout to the upside. Now, what I can mention here also is that if I get this top, you can see we're in overall the context of a pretty interesting little sideways channel here on the 4-hour chart. Now, if price does make its way back up, I think you may find seller resistance in this area, and I think that we may see some sort of buyer support on this area down here, right? Prices often like to kind of consolidate for a while before ultimately deciding, so there might be a good opportunity to trade this channel in the meantime. Now, if we do see a break above or below, we could look for a break and retest entry, kind of like we had talked about with gold. Aussie dollar is our next one, guys, which did break the pattern that we had been seeing, right? We had this very, very strong sell trend in play here on Aussie dollar, and now seeing price break through that kind of structure and break out. Now, the more interesting thing I wanted to mention with Aussie dollar is you can see we are entering again a sideways kind of trading pattern. Now, if I zoom in just a little bit, you can see what was a strong sell trend now turning into kind of a consolidation zone, right? Sideways trading. There are some great opportunities on the long and short side in sideways trading pairs. If you look for kind of the proper setup, you look for confirmation, that sort of thing, you can create some pretty good opportunities for yourself in those sideways trading markets. Next up is Euro New Zealand. This is going to be our last one for the day. I think this might have an interesting opportunity to go long. You can see if I draw, well, my fibs are all messed up from something here. If I just apply defaults, you can see if I draw my fibs, we'll delete this one. If we draw our fibs from low to high, what you can see here is that price has a good opportunity if it comes down to that 61.8, as well as that 50% of being an interesting level for support, right? Buyers. Now, why would that be? Well, what you can see here is that this level here, the 50% in particular is really nice because you can see this area was a significant level of resistance short term, and it also became kind of a level of support in this general area as well. So lining that up with the 50% retracement as well as those levels of structure might give us a good opportunity to go long here and to look for a trade there. You may see price head back up to a recent level of significant resistance, maybe this area or this area. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time. I will catch you on the next one.